Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott MacKenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
All right. Once again, welcome to Industrial Talk, the leader in industrial, I guess it's industrial media. Yeah, I'm going to say that. And we have the #1 industrial-related podcast in the universe that celebrates industry professionals all around the world because you are bold, brave, you dare greatly, you innovate, you collaborate, you solve problems. And that means you continuously make the world a better place. That's why we celebrate you on Industrial Talk. And we are broadcasting on site, OMG, the Q1 Meeting. And it's here in Reston, Virginia. And it is a collection of people that are much smarter than me, which is not saying much, but it is. They're much smarter than me, and they're solving major problems that you just take for. You don't even know that they're solving the problems. You just take it for granted. That's what. But we're here to celebrate them too. In the hot seat, we have a gentleman by the name of Dennis Dokter. University of Leeds is the business. Well, the education. And we're going to be talking about smart cities, specifically Leeds, and the program that's going on there. Let's get cracking. How you doing?
I'm all right, thank you.
You having a good meeting?
Yeah, it's been going very well, thank you. Yeah, really enjoying it. Really nice seeing everybody again.
It's a collegial group. You know, they definitely. it is a special group.
Yeah, it's a really great community to be a part of.
It really is. I get to be part of just sort of the outskirts of it. But I have friends, and then everybody's just. But what always gets me, and what's always fascinated me, is how much passion there exists about what they are doing. It is a labor of love, and I just always get all giggly about the whole thing. All right, before we get into the topic, which I'm very bullish on, give us a little just background on who Dennis is.
No, of course. So basically I work for Nexus, which is the innovation hub of the University of Leeds. And I lead on their Smart Cities cluster, and I'm their manager for data and insights. So
I'm writing all this down because it's chock full of good stuff. So you know that I've spoken to David McKee. Mm-hmm. Look for his conversation out there on the Industrial Talk. That's a plug right there. You won't be disappointed. He's never really any. He has a lot of words.
Yes.
He does well at speaking.
Yeah, but the good thing is there's also a lot of content there, so that makes
it's meaty. It's meaty. All right. One of the things that we were talking about is making a smart city. Mm-hmm. Give us just what is a smart city?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and obviously the one that you get asked the first time when you say you're leading on it. So I try to go away from the norm where they say it's kind of the pure focus on digitization of products and services, making sure it's there. We try to keep it back at basics and say it's an improvement of the quality of life in urban areas, and not just for us, but for basically an iterative process that only gets better as we go into the future, where you listen to the people. So in a sense, I don't believe there is an actual thing such as a smart city. Smarter cities, yes, but it's more of an end goal you'd like to get to.
But an end goal that the community is listened to?
Exactly.
How do you, with that said, with that example, that definition, how do you create that loop? Like, I'm Scott. If I lived in Leeds, how do you listen to me?
Well, because with Nexus we try to work with innovative companies, and the whole idea is to help them innovate and link them in with the university. So a big part of that is helping them understand, well, what is your user base? Who are the people that are going to use your products? What is the value proposition that they look for? And then bring you into contact with them. So that could be policymakers, that could be specific users. And we try to use those connections that we have and the academics that we work with to try and support you with that. So it could be that if you're looking to develop a new B2B service, is to make sure that we put you into contact with the right ecosystem to listen to them.
So a smarter city. Why is that important? What benefits does that bring me? Let's say I'm a citizen of Leeds, and I'm using Leeds is because that's really your case, in a sense, case study of a smarter city. How does that impact me? Give me a reason why I should be in support of that.
Well, I always say that the important part is it becomes more democratic, the way we do things. Not necessarily in terms of the traditional democratic processes, but making sure that the things we do, people can give input on, and we can use that to grow and learn. So that we want to use Nexus and White Rose Park as test beds and living labs. And the whole idea is for people to engage with new technologies, look at them, scrutinize them, and then use that as a base forward.
Can you share with us some of the things that are taking place within that Nexus that fit that role of saying, okay, we have this relationship with this particular company, they're developing X, and the reason they're developing X is because of this Y?
Oh gosh, so we've got a lot. So
pick one. There's more than one.
Yeah, we've got 136 at the moment.
That's great.
So yeah, and they're all equally innovative. I think there's companies working on helping with carbon accounting, so to make sure that we have a more accurate way of gathering scope 1, 2, and specifically scope 3 carbon emission details. That's a company we'll be working with a lot, EarthChain, and try to help them and collaboratively look at how can we capture that data more effectively and more realistically instead of just filling in
because you can pencil whip it. You can just there, done.
Exactly. We've got companies looking at air quality measuring and looking at what vertical air quality means. So looking at the difference between, is there a difference in air quality at sitting level versus standing level, and what might that mean? Or are there even more narrow differences? Does it mean that because I'm taller I get better quality air than somebody who's shorter? And how does that influence our behavior?
But it goes beyond more than just the environment, the carbon.
Exactly.
Like, are there any things that are infrastructure related, like better infrastructure, whatever that sounds like?
So we've got companies looking, because we've got a lot of companies in health tech and greening finance. So there's companies looking at how can we use image recognition to develop, to look at, for instance, certain pathogens, or a company focusing on using image recognition with veterinary services. So how can we actually support the veterinarians on one end, but also the pet owners to reassure them and to help them get forward. So Vet AI is the name. It's a really great company who's trying to help with a lot of mental stress that veterinarians are under, and support them to help their decision-making processes, and then also help customers get more reassured about the conditions of their pets.
You want to know something funny about a vet? So there's this restaurant we go to. We like the restaurant. It's delicious. But right next door is this 24-hour emergency vet store. And so if you're waiting outside to go have a nice meal, and then you have a family coming in crying, it's not a good thing. It's not a good sight, because that's stressful.
No, exactly.
We were sitting there as a family going, well, this is not good. I don't know if I want to have a pizza. So with that, how does a company get involved in the sense of I want to be a part of Nexus? What's that criteria look like?
Well, they can all reach out to us. Basically, the main criteria we have, because we have both physical space, but also obviously people can become a member we call that a non-resident membership, where you're part of the community, but you don't necessarily need a lab or an office. And what we look at is basically, one, do you want to innovate? And it can be a new company, it can be existing a company that decides, we need to pivot into a different direction. Yeah. That's one. And two is they want to collaborate with the university. So they see the skills and talent that students have, and they want to engage with them, or they want to do a research project with the university, or some contract research, and that's what we try to help facilitate and basically catalyze that innovation they're looking at and bring that into an upcurrent.
Now, David indicated that you're going to be showcasing a smart city, smarter city, Leeds. Can you tell us a little bit about where you stand with that, and what does that mean? What are you going to showcase?
Yes, so the whole basis is around DISCs, which is the design and integration of smart city solutions. And the idea behind that is that when you try to develop a new piece of technology, you want to test that, and you want to see that not just in a controlled environment, but also in kind of more real life setting.
Yeah.
So that's why we're partnering with White Rose Park in Morley in Leeds to give that, because it's a massive business park with a new soon to open train station, a college is there, restaurant, nursery, there's a shopping centre next door, which then brings in a lot of users that will be walking around, that will use your products either intentionally or unintentionally. They'll behave around that. So the whole idea is to start measuring that. We have different data sets already around air quality, around mobility, and we'll be able to see, well, if you do this intervention, so let's say you put a new building here or you put a certain vehicle there, how do people start behaving? And do they behave in a way that works or that doesn't?
Can you sort of elaborate on that? Like, of course, in my head, I'm thinking, hey, there's a car. But, like, what do you mean by that? I don't understand. So
a good example, I think, is they're already running trials that I think across the UK and across the US with these delivery robots.
Oh.
And people will walk around them, and initially they'll be very skeptical, or they'll have fun with it, topple them over or whatever, or they'll change their behavior. And it's important to monitor that, because it's not just from a company's point of view, like how does my product get treated, but for instance, if you're a policymaker and you see an increase in traffic incidents because people freak out because of a robot and just run across the street, or they walk more on the road or sidewalk, what does it mean for the traffic situation, and how do we adapt to that? How do we make policy for that? How do we encourage it? Or how do we change the infrastructure that we have in the city in order to better facilitate that?
Huh. See, that's just, I didn't even think about that. But it's interesting. Now, just FYI, so we go to a store. The store has a cleaning robot, and it beeps, and does its little beeping thing. And of course, I'm the one that gets in the way intentionally to see what happens with, am I going to get run over by this? Yeah, I do that.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Because I want to see what happens.
And when does it normalize? When do you get to a point when you stop doing that and it becomes part of...
Yes. And when does it begin? I mean, it's still...
That's for us to then figure out. Yeah.
Have you seen any trends?
Well, we've heard about research where they tried the co-op delivery robots, when at first they were very much a novelty. And nowadays people just see them and it's become part of the daily, I think, traffic environment. So it's just normalized. It's just become a part of how we run things.
And it's just going to get more and more.
Well, that will be interesting to see, right? Because it happens in certain areas, but not every area is the same. So if you've basically got your proof of concept, and then you've implemented it into a real life setting, and you see that it still works. And that gives you a better reassurance that when you scale it, it'll also get adopted more widely. But it gives you, I think, a sense of decent skepticism as well, to look at, well, where didn't it work, and how can we improve it so that when we take it to other places where maybe there's also, if you go internationally where there's other legislation, how do we adopt? And that's also where the digital twin will kick in.
What do you see from the future? Just what are you hoping to gain from this particular case? I can't, where Leeds. What's success for you?
So for me, it's, well, one thing you hope to gain is trust. Trust from industry, trust from policymakers, trust from society, that you use that quadruple helix where everybody can get involved and you start understanding each other. And then the second thing, what I hope comes from that, is that economic growth piece, because innovation is at the core of education and of economic growth.
How when you say innovation is at the core of economic growth, for the listener out there, what do you mean by that? How does it do that?
So I've forgotten the name of the person who pitched it the first time, but it's every job in R&D leads to X amount of jobs in the periphery. Yeah. So by making sure you get your, for instance, manufacturing locally, you can increase jobs by hiring people or hiring highly skilled people. They'll bring their families, they need education, they need access to stores, to restaurants, to leisure activities, so the whole economy starts building. So by promoting innovation and promoting these new processes to start, by supporting these growing businesses, and I think that's where the universities now are really focused on, and saying, well, this is so important, not just and we as a university need to play our role in that as well.
I would suspect, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I would suspect that it's great that you have this case to look at and the willingness of the community to be able to do that. That's great. But then there are a lot of larger communities out there. How do you incrementally, or how do you approach those? Or do you say, hey, these are high priorities. This is not so high right now. This is how we're going to do that. How we move.
Part of that is very much dependent on public engagement, and it comes down again to trust. You need to prove at first that what you're doing is actually, do people trust what you're doing? Do you actually listen to them? Are you just involving them in the situation? That's why we've got a really good public engagement team at the university as well. Is we want to make sure that when we listen to people, we actually do something with it, not just as a formality, but as a way of helping, for instance, in companies' case, improve their products, because they want to make sure that they're going to sell it to their end user. If then it's not representative, then it can only go wrong. You invest a lot of money in a prototype or in a set of products you want to bring to market, and then there's nobody buying them, and it's a huge issue.
That's an understatement. It's a huge issue. I would imagine, because I would say that it's great in this particular application, but to get to the point where it's more ubiquitous, it's just, I need to know what is important and what's not. Right? Mm-hmm. That's all shiny objects over there. This is what's really meaningful. This will be transformative to my community in a way. So that to me, you're absolutely right from the perspective of trust. So after you've done this with Leeds, where do you see it going next? What's the next step?
Well, the whole intention is to hopefully scale it more within the region, to really take that concept and hope other people will start adopting that as well, because it almost becomes like random control groups, right? We know that people in Leeds will behave differently from people in Reston. So you can try something in Leeds, but then you'd like to reenact it the same way in Reston and see how does that happen, and how does it happen, for instance, in Melbourne or in Tokyo. Do people do the same thing, or is policy in the way? For instance, if we find a new way for creating an affordable way of retrofitting stuff to existing buildings to make them more energy efficient, or to improve connectivity, or to get rid of certain issues. Does legislation in other countries allow that, or is it prohibited?
It's so massive. I mean, you bring up so many of these interesting points. I wasn't thinking in those terms, but you're absolutely right. To try to deploy a solution that is acceptable in the Leeds world might not be applicable here in Reston or wherever else. Mm-hmm. And you have to be nimble enough to be able to make those adjustments.
Exactly.
How do people get a hold of you there? If they want to say, Dennis is speaking my lingo, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can feel free to go to the Nexus website, so nexusleeds.co.uk, or reach out to me on LinkedIn at Dennis Dokter, and they'll be able to find me there and just send me a message.
And I know what you're thinking, Doctor. No, it's Dokter. That's the last name, first name Dennis. You are absolutely wonderful.
Thank you very much.
All right, listeners, we're going to have all the contact information for Dennis out there, so fear not, you'll be able to reach out to him. It's happening whether you like it or not, and you need individuals that you can trust to be able to take you along on that journey. Dennis is one of those Sherpas right there. All right, stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
All right, Dennis was his name. Dennis Dokter, Dokter. Nexus Leeds was the organization, and the event was OMG's Q1 Meeting. Excellent conversation. If you want to interact with individuals who are really passionate about impacting the future in a positive way, you need to get engaged with OMG. They never disappoint. They have incredible individuals, incredible members, contributing a lot. It's an amazing event. All right, Industrial Talk is here for you. You want a podcast? Let's say you want to put together a podcast. You need to talk to me. If you have a podcast, you need to put it out on Industrial Talk. It's all there. We're here for you. We're here. This platform is here to amplify the great work that is being done in industry. You need to be a part of it. If you have a technology that you want to highlight, put it out on Industrial Talk. All right, be bold, be brave, dare greatly. Hang out with Dennis, change the world, smart cities. We're going to have another great conversation shortly.